I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Terrebonne Parish Council Wednesday, October 12th, 2022. Mr. Harding, could you lead us in a prayer followed by a pledge, please?
Heavenly Father, as we are granted this day by your divine power, O God, we realize that it's a day that we have never seen before and we'll never see again. We ask you on this day, O God, to look within our hearts and see and feel our desires, that you magnify the Holy Spirit within us, and that you protect our families from danger seen and unseen, foreign and domestic. We ask you to bless this parish, O God, and an ability to recover from all the circumstances that we've actually gone through and create a form of unity within all the cultures combined together to represent the good earth Terrebonne Parish. We ask you to bless us with your divine Holy Spirit and your darling Son Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Becknell, roll call.
Mr. Amity.
Here.
Ms. Domingue. Mr. Darren Guidry.
Here.
Mr. Babin. Here. Mr. Dirk Guidry. Here. Mr. Trosclair. Here. Dr. Navy. Here. Mr. Harding.
Here.
Mr. Michaud.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you very much. We do have a notice from Mr. John Navy saying, scratch that, Mr. Navy is moot at this point. And Ms. Jessica Domingue has sent her regrets and said she is not able to make it. Her brand new 2023 vehicle stranded her, and so she is in the process of trying to get somebody to tow and do a series of things. So she will keep up to date with what's going on and make sure everything is taken care of in her district. So moving right along, approve minutes of the regular council session held on September 14th, 2020. And in accordance with the American with Disabilities Act, Councilman Gerald Michaud will be attending via Zoom. Approve minutes of the regular council session held on September 14th, 2022. Moved by Mr. Carl Harding, seconded Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Distribute minutes of the regular council session held on September 28th, 2022, which we've done. Approve accounts payable bill list for October 3rd and October 10th, 2022. Move Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded Mr. Carl Harding. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. General business, proclaiming the week of October 9th through the 15th, 2022 as Fire Prevention Week in Terrebonne Parish. Mr. Carl Harding.
Thank you. Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, a proclamation. Whereas Terrebonne Parish is committed to ensure the safety and security of those living and visiting our parish. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are greatest at risk from fire, and whereas home fire causes 2,580 civilian deaths in the United States in 2022, according to the National Fire Protection Association. And fire departments in the United States responded to 356,500 home fires, and whereas smoke alarms sense smoke well before you can alert you in dangers of the event of the fire, in which you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape safety, and whereas the working smoke alarm cuts the risk of dying in a reported home fire in half, and whereas residents should be sure everyone in the home understands that the sounds of the smoke alarm and knows how to respond, and whereas the residents who have plan and practice a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas residents will make sure their smoke and carbon monoxide alarms meet the needs of all the family members, including those with sensors and physical disabilities, and whereas first responders and dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home injuries through prevention and protection education, and whereas residents that are responsive to public education measures and better able to take personal steps in increasing their safety from fire, especially in their home. And whereas the 2022 Fire Prevention Week theme, Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape, effectively serves to remind the Terrebonne Parish that it is important to have a home fire escape plan. Now therefore be it resolved that Terrebonne Parish Council, on the behalf of the Parish President and the entire Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, hereby proclaim the week of October 9th through the 15th, 2022 as Terrebonne Fire Prevention Week in Terrebonne Parish, and that the residents be urged to plan and practice a home fire escape for Fire Prevention Week 2022 and to support the many public safety activities and efforts Terrebonne Parish Fire and Emergency Service. Chief?
Thank you for this proclamation. This is the 100th year of Fire Prevention Week. This is the longest public outreach safety outreach for the United States. Our firefighters have been in all the schools, well, most of the schools in October. We will continue to finish up this week. And if anyone has any fire and safety concerns, whether it be a resident or a commercial property, they can call us and we will assist them. Again, thank you.
Hold on, Chief. We have a few people want to make some comments. Mr. Harding?
Yes, I of course, being a retired firefighter, over 25 years and things like that, people don't understand. There are very few smoke eaters that are left in the fire department because of the technology that has improved the capacity and the capabilities of firefighting, number one being prevention. And I want to point out two things in reference to the fire department, whether you be a paid civil servant such as you are, and all the volunteers, and how important it is. It's very important, and part of fire prevention, I do believe that all of these, even though it's civil service and some of the other areas that within Terrebonne Parish, you have to realize that part of firefighting and the prevention of firefighting, there's a need for firefighters throughout Terrebonne Parish, whether it be paid or volunteer. And I'm supporting the Houma Fire Department and all the other fire departments that are out there. It's oftentimes you pass by a fire station and you feel as if that they're not doing anything. And the old saying within the fire department, they don't pay you for what you do, they pay you for what you know. And part of that is how to protect and how to teach and how to do a number of things that people oftentimes, when you're running into a fire, they're running out. So, I appreciate the fire department, not just here, throughout the United States. And there's one lady that's been in the fire department, I think, no offense to you, Chief, but Miss Kim Dupree. And she's been there for a number of years. I promise you, if it wouldn't be for you, I would have voted for her to be the fire chief, because that's the backbone of the fire department and has been for a number of years. So kudos to the fire department here in Terrebonne Parish and throughout the nation. Thank you very much.
Mr. Dirk Guidry.
Yeah, Chief, congratulations again. I know you ain't been on that for too long, but I hear from you guys, man, they love you. You're doing a good job, and it's a job that, a lot of people don't really appreciate, very well underpaid. And I think somewhere along the line that we need to figure out how we can give you guys more money, because unlike police officers can go out and get a job on the side and, you know, at Walmart or Lowe's and do guard job. But you guys don't have that opportunity as much as them, but you'll have to like nearly own your own little company or go ahead and cutting grass or doing something like that. So you guys do this because y'all like to fight fires, y'all like what y'all do. So tell all you guys that I appreciate from the bottom of my heart what they do. And again, congratulations for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry. Mr. Michel.
Chief, thank you for coming in today, and congratulations on the proclamation. And also, I want to just say how much we appreciate you being here and taking the place of Keith, who left us a few months ago. You know, I appreciate you. I appreciate your family who sacrifices for you to do the work that you do. And if there's ever anything that I can do, please let me know. You know, I, like the other council people, are here to support you. Thank you.
Mr. Dove.
Yes, Corey, and Chief Henry, I want to say it's been a pleasure and honor working with you, and you really brought the Houma Fire Department around and working with us, and you know, I appreciate that, and you know, you really transparency to us, and got with the budget with Candace Malden, and it's really been great working with you, and welcome aboard, and to all the chiefs through all the fire departments throughout Terrebonne Parish have worked great with this administration, and we've worked with it. And, you know, I look forward to working with you in the future. Thanks for coming aboard.
Yes, Chief, and from the chair, again, we appreciate what you and everybody under you in the fire department do to help keep us safe. And know that we appreciate you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Mr. Dove?
No, on the next one.
Oh. All right, next item, presentation by parish administration relative to capital projects, including drainage, utility, road, quality of life projects, as well as other matters related to the operation and maintenance of parish government. Mr. Dove.
Yeah, and they're going to talk about it further into this meeting, but I want to really welcome everyone October 15th, 2022, downtown for the 200 Bicentennial Festival. And then we have a parade plan and a vault that is going to be sealed for 100 years with memorability from different people throughout Terrebonne Parish, and it'll be sealed Saturday morning, and of course they'll have a parade with a lot of antique cars. Please come out there Saturday morning until 8 o'clock Saturday night. On another note, I met with Pat Forbes with the state, and we don't have the amount of money we're getting, but the CDBG money, Community Development Block Grant money, we're getting closer and closer to know the amount that Terrebonne Parish would get. And the state is going to get substantial. I think they've already received $842 million, and they're expected to receive more than that. And so this will help us with a lot of our projects throughout Terrebonne Parish. And on another note, the 24-megawatt power plant being constructed on Barrel Street is coming along. We should be online no later than December the 1st. And you know, and of course, this is for if there's an excess demand, and it's also to make sure it services hospitals, water, sewage, or anything else we need, because the power plant was destroyed during the Hurricane Ida, and we've really had a lot of meetings. And you know, I want to my hats go out to my staff, Candace and Chris and Mike Toops and everyone involved, along with the different engineering firms and Royal and GIS and other firms that's involved with it, and we're really coming along with it. Our goal is to replace it with a 100-megawatt plant. Right now, it's an 84-megawatt plant that was destroyed during this last hurricane, so that's coming along well. But the power plant on Barrel Street is coming along well, and we hope to have it online before December 1st. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dove. Moving along, Ms. Paula Rome, Terrebonne Parish Entergy representative, will address the council relative to the status of Entergy street light repairs, as well as the agreement between Terrebonne Parish and Entergy in regard to decorative street light energization, I guess.
Energization.
Interesting word, energization. Ms. Rome, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Guidry. Thank y'all for having us tonight. I brought along with me my supervisor, our regional customer service manager, Al Galindo, who is going to give the presentation. Al used to work in our lighting department, so he knows more about this than anybody, so he's the expert here. So I'll turn it over to Al.
Thanks, Paula. Councilman Hardy, thank you for those words about the firefighters. My son is a firefighter, so I know exactly what you're saying, so thank you for that. Appreciate the council inviting us to provide an update on the street lights, and I guess I can do the switching here so that you can just have a better understanding of the relationship between Entergy and Terrebonne Parish as it relates to the street lights that are in operation here in the parish. Let's see. Here we go. Oops, let me go back, I'm sorry. Okay, what I'm showing here, and I know there's 3 pages that I show embedded in the slide, but this is our street light rate schedule that we have on file with the Public Service Commission of Louisiana. And the highlighted section that I'm showing is what the responsibility is for the energy and lamp service for systems that are owned by others, and others would be the parish.
Could you lift the mic a little bit?
I'm sorry.
If you don't
Thank
mind.
you.
Thanks.
The lighting systems that the parish owns, essentially, the customer is Terrebonne Parish, which is being referenced in the rate schedule. They're responsible for owning, maintaining, replacing all of the standards, fixtures, luminaires, and all the associated street lighting equipment, which includes the poles and the underground cable and other wiring of the street lighting system. And Entergy, which is the company, we shall furnish the energy, which is the power to supply the lamps, and when there's a need for a lamp to be replaced, Entergy has a responsibility for making that repair. And so there's a standard that we have that describes the type of lamps that are installed in the lighting fixtures, and that's something that we work with Mr. Ernest Brown's team to ensure that we have consistency. If there's any sort of difference in the type of luminaire or lamp that's in the actual lighting fixture, we try to make sure that we are in compliance to make sure that we're supplying the repairs with the type of lamp that's needed. We have copies of the street light rate schedule, which we will share with you so that you have a copy of that. And again, this is what this document is filed by Entergy with the Louisiana Public Service Commission. And essentially, the rate schedule, which is also referred to as a tariff, which is the manner in which Entergy does business, it's really an implied contract for how we deliver electric service for different end uses. In this particular case, it's the street lighting rate.
Now, the definition of a lamp is the bulb.
Is the bulb inside the fixture. So that's what Entergy is responsible for repairing on Terrebonne Parish's owned streetlights. The next rate schedule, and I understand that the parish is doing some of this now. Is the new LED street lighting service rate schedule. This was introduced several years ago, and this is if the parish wants to change out the existing high pressure sodium, which is the amber colored light fixtures that have the lamp in it, you can replace them with an LED fixture, which is more efficient and it uses less energy. So when those conversions are made for this particular rate schedule, Entergy isn't really able to fix the street light if it fails, because there isn't a lamp inside an LED street light. It's diodes that the fixture operates under, and so when that light fixture goes out, it's the parish's responsibility to make those repairs. And so I wanted to make sure that as you start to convert Terrebonne Parish owned street lights from non-LED to LED, that you understand that this is the distinction in the rate schedule. I do want to follow up because I was talking earlier to several council members where the parish has already started to make changes to the LED streetlights. And I just want to make sure, I'll go back and just confirm that as those LED streetlights are being converted, that the actual rate on the parish's bill is reflecting the change, because it is lower costs to the parish. That's the whole purpose of putting in the LED streetlights, so that you don't have to worry as much about maintenance, and it lowers your energy consumption. And that's built into the rate schedule that you see in the slide. So we also have that to provide. I know there was a question that was asked about potentially Entergy taking over parish-owned streetlights. We can do that, but we would have to do an assessment to convert them from parish-owned streetlights to Entergy-owned streetlights. And part of what our engineering and operations team would do is assess those areas that the parish is interested in no longer being responsible for those particular streetlights. And there's engineering work that would have to be done to ensure that those particular facilities are to the electrical standards that we have for our streetlights. And I would imagine most of those streetlights are probably fed by underground circuits. So I know that that's something that as that assessment is done, we would work closely with the parish to determine what sort of cost implications would be associated with that type of a changeover. But that is something I did follow up on to ask if we would be willing to entertain the discussion on that. And those were the factors that were provided to me by our operations and engineering folks on how we can assess that opportunity. This next picture, slide, just shows the picture. I know there's been a lot of questions about the distinction between, decorative poles. The picture on the right shows Entergy wood poles that are on our distribution lines. And our distribution lines are the wood poles that you see up and down the roads and highways that have the overhead lines that are attached to them. And then those service lines are used to also attach the electrical service wire to the street light that we attach to the pole. And so I guess the easiest way to probably distinguish it or describe it is that if it's a wood pole, you can pretty much assume that it's an Entergy-owned pole. The picture on the left shows a fiberglass or a steel pole. It depends on when they were put in. But you can see in that image there's two street lights on one pole that's served by overhead. And so those type of services are typically what the parish owns, is the metal pole or a fiberglass pole. The other synonymous term for a decorative pole are the really nice decorative poles that you might see in some downtown areas that have like an acorn fixture. I'm not sure if the parish has any of those that are parish owned, but those would also be considered a parish owned decorative street light along with the pole. So I just wanted to make sure that we covered that. The next slide really covers all of the road lighting districts in Terrebonne Parish, and it shows by road lighting district how many customer-owned and how many company-owned poles, company-owned being Entergy, customer being Terrebonne Parish. So there's roughly about 8,578 street lights in the parish, and 1,214 are parish-owned, and then the remainder are Entergy-owned. So it's about 14%, and you can see the areas by road lighting district. It's in Homa, Schriever, and Few and Berg, Chauvin, and I can't read that last, Crozier. Those are all the street lights that are parish-owned. And so I wanted to show that. One of the other pieces of information that I didn't attach here, and I wanted to be able to have our team sit down and review with Ernest, is to make sure that within each road lighting district, we know specifically the type of fixture that is assigned to that road lighting district that's customer owned. So if it's a decorative Cobra head or a open bottom fixture based on the wattage, we can review to make sure that we have a clear distinction between the type of light fixtures that are parish owned, and then and I'll get into the repair part of it in a second, is which parish owned facilities that have been assessed, Entergy has assessed them, need to be repaired by the parish. I know I saw some messages going back and forth internally where there are certain poles or certain streetlights that were destroyed during the storm. There's not even a pole there anymore. And so what we need to do is have our operations team and our lighting team meet with the Public Utilities Director for Terrebonne Parish and really go through the streetlights that need to be repaired. This next slide will kind of give you a little bit more of a background. So as of last Friday, all of our streetlight orders are in a backlog that are initiated by work order tickets. So we showed 363 work orders in the backlog for streetlights. Of those 363, 261 streetlight orders had to be worked. They haven't been worked yet, so they're scheduled to be worked. But then you see the streetlight orders with issues: no voltage, network pole replacement, bad fixtures, owned by parish. There's about 102 fixtures that are in our backlog that we really need to sit down and review with the parish utilities director to kind of make sure that what we're showing as having an issue, the parish knows that it's the same light fixture. Because I think what's happened since the course of the storm, there's just been a lot of information that probably hasn't been reconciled between Entergy and the parish, especially on parish-owned lights that are damaged. And so we just want to make sure that we take care of it. So part of what I wanted to present is that our follow-up action item between Entergy and the parish is to basically sit down and review all the listings of streetlights to make sure that the location and the specific issue that's associated with that particular streetlight is addressed. And if there's any specific neighborhoods where there's multiple streetlight issues, I know several of the council members here at Terrebonne have contacted me and Paul and others to ensure that we get those taken care of. So we just want to make sure that we're following up to make sure that those issues are being addressed. Oops. So one of the things that I wanted to share with the council that we introduced earlier this year is on our smartphone app that actually allows basically anybody to report a streetlight out. What I'm showing on the screen is a screenshot of the app that's on myentergy.com. If you bring that up, you can actually start putting in the request to select a report streetlight out. It's a function that you see on the screen there on the right image where it shows outage. This was actually taken from one of our employees in Lake Charles who was putting together a presentation for employees to share with customers. And I tried it. It works well. It allows you to use the mapping system that's embedded into the outage reporting system to actually show where the street light is located on a specific street, and then you just mark the pin on that image. Let me just see if I can. I apologize, a little technically impaired. Here we go. So the smartphone app, it shows in that left image, it shows the street and it shows the location of where the street lights are placed in that area. And it's pretty accurate. I did it one early morning in my neighborhood while I was walking my dog, and I was able to do it, and it actually initiates a ticket. You can put comments in the app. And the one thing that I was trying to make sure that worked is that to make sure that when you submit the request on the app, that it initiates a work order ticket. So I went back and followed up, and probably within 2 or 3 days, that light was repaired. And so this was in the Metairie area, but it is I guess an option that's available if folks want to use this as a way to report street lights. And that's the other the part that I wanted to mention. It's important that we have a work order ticket in the system to make sure that we have it in the backlog. That backlog that I just described to you of 363 lights, those are all based on issuance of work order tickets for street lights. And I know sometimes you'll call and ask, and that's fine, but what we were trying to do with this particular part of the presentation is just to show our customers that there is some technology enhancements that we put in place in order to make it easier for customers to report street lights instead of calling it in. And then it kind of gives you the location of the street light or the security light, if it's a security light that's out. And you'll get a message on your phone that tells you that they've received it. So you can just see the security light, street light outage requested schedule. So it goes into a lot of detail. The other part that I wanted to follow up on, just, it's been well over a year since we had Hurricane Ida, and we were working with all of the impacted parishes multiple months. It was like the streetlight part of the storm was like a second storm, is the way I kind of reference it. And so I just wanted to kind of do a quick recap of the streetlights. We billed at the time 8,386 streetlights in the parish, both parish-owned and Entergy-owned. We did assessments on 99.4% of those lights. We hired a third-party company in late, November and early December to actually do all those assessments. We found that about 4,895% of the streetlights that were assessed were either damaged or not there. And it was based on the maps that we had of where all these streetlights were located that we were able to come up with those assessments. So about 59%. And what we ended up doing, if you can see in the chart below, we provided the parish with a little bit over $293,000 in bill credits going from September through January of this year for the fact that we didn't have all those streetlights operating within the parish. And so we did that with all the impacted parishes across the state that had issues with streetlights. And that's all I have for now, but I would please open it up to any questions or comments that folks may have.
Dr. Navy?
Yeah, look, first of all, I want to commend you on the LED lighting, because that is something that's very efficient. I'm glad that you told us that it's cost effective and it lasts longer. That's something that I've seen that Ernie Brown is doing a lot, changing those lights out to LED. I have a couple of questions or a couple of things, concerns I have. You mentioned about an assessment in reference to street lights on certain areas. My concern is in my district, and I think some of you all might have that same problem. I have streets where one side is City of Houma, one side is Entergy. Don't understand that. We're a municipality with maybe 112,000 people. We have 3 utility companies, and we had this storm that just hit us, a catastrophic event. I call it a phenomenological event. But at the end of the day, I don't understand the coordination of the utility companies in how Entergy, Sleeka, and the City of Houma are managing this process with these assessments of these poles. Because, like you just said, you're going to assess where they are, but at the end of the day, do you have streets where City of Houma and Entergy? Now, my question is, and I haven't brought this to the parish, but my question is, if you have a street where 2 utility companies, are they paying the same rate? I don't think so, and that's why it's important that I'm glad that you all brought that up. It's important that maybe we need to unify the process where Entergy is taking over the whole streets, or whoever, because that's not even fair to the customer also. But at these assessment of these poles, it needs to just to be done, because I don't even understand when residents are calling us in reference to these poles and asking us who owns what area. We don't really know.
Right.
And we get these questions asked, and then we go to the parish or someone, they say it's the City of Houma, or they say it's Entergy. And you're just telling me now that y'all have a process in place that y'all can identify each pole.
We do.
That is great, and I'm glad. And by the way, Ms. Rome, thank you. You're doing a fantastic job, by the way, taking over that position. But I'm just concerned that I think we really need to move toward consolidation of these lighting districts where one utility company, now I don't know what the process with that is and the policies with that, but that is crazy when you got a street where you got one side of the street is a utility company, the Utility of Houma, the other side is Entergy. And then the customers are paying a different rate, actually a different rate. So that is not fair to our people, the residents and the taxpayers. So I don't know how we could fix that problem, but I just think there's a lot of issues that we need to be looking at. That was my main concern, and definitely with the lighting, because now when you're trying to repair these poles and the way it's taking a long time for people to get lighting, I'm still confused about who owns what pole. And we still asking this question over 12 months later. It's not your fault, but I just think that the utility companies need to come up with a coordinated effort to unify. We're going to have another catastrophic event in this parish, and the biggest problem we had was lighting. Still having that problem, that lighting. That's why you're all here today. But I just hope that you all do come with some type of plan in the near future. And I just say you all, the utility companies,
Right.
because it's just not effective right now. We know we got caught with our pants down with this process. I'll be honest with you with that. And it wasn't your fault. It was an event.
Right.
That was an act of nature. But we need to prepare at least for the next one better than what we're doing now.
Yeah, I
So-
think, when you have 3 electric entities, all operating within one area, I agree, it can be confusing, and I think, I'm not sure how the other two, or how SLECA provides information to the parish on where their lights are. I know we provide the maps that are, GIS coordinates to show where all the street lights and where the circuits are. But, I'm taking some notes here. I can follow back up, Councilman, just to kind of provide some clarity. I think in terms of, consolidating all of the utilities, that's a little bit of a harder lift to try to do, because it's all a regulatory, process that would have to involve the Public Service Commission.
But my main concern is not necessarily consolidate. My main concern is where you have those streets, where you have residents. One side is City of Homer, one side is energy. Something needs to be done. That needs to be consolidated to some fashion. Because then you have, you go to your neighbor and they're saying they're paying this rate, and you all in City of Home are charging a different rate. I don't understand that process. I really don't. But I just think something needs to be done with that. That's not fair to the taxpayers that's paying with the road lighting districts. That's not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Trosclair.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of things. The first thing, you said that, and we've been told several times that y'all contracted an engineering firm to do an assessment, and you said earlier around November y'all did the contract. When did they actually finish that assessment?
They finished the assessments like right before Christmas.
So when did you guys get the reports back?
We got them, well, I can tell you when I got them, because it was during the Christmas holidays, and I was the one that was actually looking at the data to figure out. So it was probably around the end of December, first part of January.
Said first part of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, so we already in the 10th month, and we're just now trying to coordinate the repairs to these things with the parish. What took so long to get this part of it done?
Well, the initial part of the storm restoration associated with streetlights, one, we had to get contractors to do the work, so we had to go out and find the labor to do that. And then the second part were the materials. Now, we anticipated that we were going to need a lot of materials, not only in Terrebonne, but in all the parishes in the surrounding area. So we began ordering materials, but what really drove the delay was getting the contractors here to do that. And when we did get them, they started working probably around the middle of January, late January, and we really didn't finish doing all of the work probably until about the end of April, early part of May, because we were still reviewing all the work.
We still, the part I'm talking about, we still got 363 lights in back order, according to your numbers here. And I've been hearing that number thrown around several times in the last couple of months.
Right.
My concern is, you're at our meeting tonight, and we still have a confusion between who owns what lights, and we're just now doing this now, okay? And that's, you got your report back. Now, let me move on. The survey that was done, was it done according to your or Energy's light charts mapping?
Yes. Yes.
So are the parish-owned lights part of your mapping?
Yes.
So they're part of your mapping?
Yes.
So I can assume that these 363 lights would, in case a light that may be out in Cocodrie if it's on a decorative pole, or one that in North Terrebonne if it's on a decorative pole.
Correct. It'd be all the lights that we have.
This covers every light fixture that was deemed to be deficient.
And that has been reported,
and
yes.
Has been reported by your surveyors?
No, this is, so let me just go back and clarify something first. The way the streetlight rate schedules are calculated, there's what's referred to as a burn rate. the burn rate is 90% because we know that you're never going to have 100% of the lights on at the same time. There's always going to be lights that are out. Now, I know that we did a significant number of repairs for street lights because of the storm, but that didn't necessarily mean that we finished doing all the repairs because there was probably damages, or not damages, but repairs that were needed after we did the repairs. And so it's like an ongoing process. So typically 10% of the lights are assumed to be not operating at any given time. So, you know, what I was trying to do in preparing for this presentation is just to make sure that I had the most accurate number of work order tickets that have been initiated for the repairs of streetlights, whether they're parish-owned or Entergy-owned.
Okay, but I'm kind of confused now.
Okay.
You hired, or Energy hired a third party to do an assessment of deficient lights. and things.
As part of the storm restoration,
Correct.
after the storm.
But this 363 is not part of that number?
No, this is just the ongoing repairs that we've had to continue doing in the parish for all of the ongoing streetlights that are reported as being out. Now, some of those could be, the 102 could be those that were damaged during the storm when we went out to repair them. We couldn't fix them because they were parish-owned lights and there's problems with it. And that's what I mentioned earlier. We need to sit down with Ernest Brown's team and our lighting and operations team to make sure that what we show as a specific light that's not able to be turned on, that the parish knows that that is one of their lights. And I think that's where there was probably a disconnect, where our Entergy team and the parish team weren't reconciling where those damages were so that we could get the repairs made.
And I'm going to revert back to the beginning, just off of your statement.
Sure.
Okay, so we just now getting with Terrebonne Parish and Energy just now getting together to try to put some kind of resolution to repairs of these lights.
Well, I mean, when I was asked,
And we're a year later.
yeah, I mean, I think that you know, you're right. It probably could have been done better,
Okay.
and I think that's the opportunity that we have to try to make sure we get it fixed.
So that leads to my concern now. Just hypothetical, if the light pole in front of my house is out, the street light is out, the pole's missing.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't turn it in, nobody turned it in to the parish, so it's still not part of any one of these numbers.
It could or couldn't be. I don't know. That's one of the reasons why I believe we need to sit down with Ernest to make sure that those light poles, that it could be a pole that's not there, that they understand and know that it's a parish-owned pole, so they can take care of it.
But I'm still at a loss as to what was the function of the third party that went out to do the inspection. Did they not go out and say, okay, Energy's lighting mapping shows a pole supposed to be at 117 St. Agnes, it's not here. So that's not part of this list that they sent back to you guys?
There are poles there are lights that weren't on poles. So I you know, to be honest, I can't answer that question because I don't know. I don't want to try to answer that without knowing it.
And I understand that. You know, a lot of poles don't have lights on. But Energy bills us for every light that's on any pole in Terrebonne Parish we get.
Right.
So evidently, Energy knows exactly where those light fixtures are supposed to be.
Yes.
And so my concern is, you know, we're a year out, and still nobody can tell us for sure if there's a good, clear assessment of the actual poles that are fixtures and/or poles that need repairs or replacement. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's where I'm going.
Right.
We just don't have that open. We don't have no clear cut. Nobody can give us a definite yes, everyone's accounted for, or 99.9% accounted for. You know, nobody can do it. This 363 number, I've been hearing that now. To me, that number don't mean anything at this point, because these are probably, could be just only people that has a pole, a light in front of their house, that turned a work order in, and that's the only thing you work it on. So I'm still at a loss as to actually I'm sure that engineering company charged Energy quite a bit of money to do its assessment, and I don't see an assessment report from them, you know, of something that's viable, that we can hang our our reputation on when I tell a constituent of mine, look, your light is on that list, I can guarantee it, because not only did I turn it in, or maybe I didn't turn it in, but if I didn't, or you didn't, it's on the list because the energy paid somebody a lot of money to do it.
I mean, I have the list of every single inspection that they did, so I mean, I can provide it and break it out by,
I mean, I just, like I said, there's been a lot of disconnects, especially, now look, Energy did a great job, did a great job in getting the big part done.
Right.
Okay? Y'all came back, y'all lit up most of the streets. Most of my issues are in subdivisions, okay? The highways, you know, they've been lit up since March or May, April, whenever y'all say, you're saying that they've done it. And I agree with that. But I've got one street in Lafayette Woods subdivision that does not have a single light working on it. So that whole street is pitch black dark. It's in trees. It's a wooded area, and nobody can give me an answer when or if it's going to, how long it'll take to get it done. And that's the issue I got. And they keep saying it's because the parish and the Energy hadn't got together to decide how we're going to fix it. You know, we blame it. Some people are blaming FEMA, the FEMA process. Some people are blaming Energy because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. Some people blame the parish because they're not doing what they should be done. I think it's a combination of all three events, but at the end of the day, we're still not getting these people some street lights.
right.
And they're, I mean, it's not costing them anything. Their millages, they're still collecting their millages. The money's in the account. But at the end of the day, it's coming out there, you know, when they pay their assessments, their tax assessments, part of their tax assessment is to light their street up. And it's not being done in a timely fashion.
Right. No, I appreciate your feedback. I mean, I've taken some notes here. I will follow up on what
Thank you, sir.
You're referring to. Thank you.
Mr. Michaud.
Thank you. Al, thank you for everything y'all have done. When y'all came in, I don't remember if it was January or whenever it was, and said y'all were going to have this done by the end of June, I was ecstatic with that. And when it didn't happen, I blamed y'all. And I was wrong, okay? I should not have blamed y'all because y'all did what y'all could do. Y'all replaced the bulbs. I was under the assumption, and I think the parish was under the assumption, based upon the last meeting comments that were stated, that only decorative poles, as in those pretty green poles in some of the nicer subdivisions, were the parish's responsibility, and that the aluminum poles were Entergy's responsibility. And that apparently is incorrect information. And that is also, at least in my district, that also appears to be the difference between what has been repaired and what has not been repaired. The parish has done little to nothing in doing what they have to do so that Entergy can do what they have to do with the bulbs. And you know, it drives me nuts because it's been over a year. We've been promising people. I have entire blocks in my district that have no light whatsoever, and that is a huge safety issue that is the parish's fault. And again, I'm saying this in public because I blamed Entergy and I was wrong, okay? The parish needs to do what they have to do. Don't wait for FEMA. We didn't wait for FEMA for this $20 million project that's going to cost us that every year, and it's gonna drain our budget. We didn't wait for FEMA. We may end up getting FEMA, and I hope we do. But the fact is, we didn't wait for FEMA for it. So why are we waiting for FEMA on these light fixtures? The parish needs to do what they have to do so that Entergy can finish their job. So again, Al, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you, Paula, for everything you've done. And you know, hopefully we can get this done, because there's no excuse for us to be treating the constituents this way and putting some of them in a situation where their neighborhoods are less safe than they should be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dirk Guidry.
Yeah, Mr. Al, thank you all for coming, you and Paula coming tonight. You know, and I'm going to piggyback off a lot of what Steve said. Would the parish have a GIS deal where you can give that to Energy, and Energy can go and see where every street light is in Terrebonne Parish? Was that ever given to Energy, or has Energy ever asked for that? Well, why can't we coordinate together?
Oh, Mr. Toops, hold on.
Yeah,
You want to answer that?
It seemed like after this long of amount of time that the great minds would have got together and did this, you know, because I've got street lights that are totally missing down here, down in the bayous. I've got some on Woodland Ranch Road where they changed the poles, they took the fixtures, and they've never been back to put fixtures, you know. So I got to see it, and I knew we had a GIS deal where it shows where we have street lights, and I just can't understand why both groups are not together figuring out they're supposed to have a street light at 677, and Energy doesn't know about it, you know? I just think that you guys need to get together and figure out where we pay for street lights at, and y'all need, somebody needs, either the parish and Energy go together or something and look at this, and it would solve the whole problem. Then we know where every street light is in this parish. So I just can't understand why after 13 months after a hurricane, that we haven't did this, you know? It just blows my mind why we haven't thought about doing this, you know? So, and you know, I'm gonna leave it at that, and I hope y'all do it, because I got street lights that the fixtures are totally missing, you know, and people are calling me, and I'm saying, just hang on, they're coming, you know, but it seems like y'all don't even know that they're there, that they're missing. So
I think we need to
I
do
wish y'all could get together tomorrow, or whenever y'all got to get together, and put the two minds together, because we got a GIS system that tells us where every street light is on every pole in this parish that we pay for.
Right.
So, another question for you, Paula. Have you talked to Clayton Arcan about the lights on the boat launch down the bayou and hooking up the camera system, the power for the camera system? Do you know how long it's going to take before we get street lights at that boat launch?
Yeah, we actually, I had a conversation with Clay this week. There was some confusion on our end, but within 2 weeks, we should have that up and running.
Okay, and
For all
another
the boat
thing.
launch. And about the cameras for the sheriff's office, I have a call into Ms. O'Brien right now to discuss that. I needed the parish's account number, and then I'm gonna have to talk to you guys. See, you might have to pass something officially for us to better charge your account for some of those camera, a base fee.
Okay, well, yeah, that'll work, you know, yeah. But, and another thing too, you know, I know we just bought this and the private owners had this before, but is there any way that we could put something on these lower wires and all to show that these guys that's coming to launch these boats with these big skimmer frames that there is a overhead, or put some signs or something to warn these people that, so they don't run into these wires? So, I mean, that's all I got to fuss about tonight, so I'm not really fussing.
At the boat launch you talking about, Dirk?
Excuse me?
You want the signs at the boat launch?
At the boat launch, or if there's something orange that y'all could put on hanging on these wires or something so that these people can visually see it, you know? But we need streetlights at night so they can see these things.
Exactly.
So, and we would appreciate, you know, if y'all could hurry up and get these cameras set up, because we need to see it. I mean, it's for our protection and the public's protection. So I appreciate that. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
Yes, I appreciate you guys' bravery, because we've really been tracking y'all for the last year or so. But there's some issues, not really issues, I just to ask a few questions, just to for my information, for information of the public. And we mentioned LED lights, and I think I had a vehicle that it said I had LED lights, and a portion of that light went out, and it kind of dimmed a little bit, and had to replace the whole thing. And we say that we get LED lights and it saves us in the long run. But we also should know that we pay more for them up front.
Correct.
Okay, that part of the record is understood.
Yes.
All right. I appreciate, you have something
I do
to
want to
say?
make one comment, because it did come up with all of the parishes that were impacted, because for Entergy-owned streetlights, we do have an LED rate schedule, but the actual cost per light under the LED rate schedule is actually higher than the non-LED rate schedule price. And so when we were going through all the discussions with parishes about, you know, replacing lights, you know, the question came up, you know, why can't we just replace them with LED? We went back to our rate and regulatory team and we said, look, y'all need to change the pricing on these LED rates that we have for Entergy-owned lights, because it would be a lot less expensive for the parish on company-owned or Entergy-owned lights if we converted them. So we did have our lighting team and our regulatory team put together some cost. We need to follow up and see what time frame they would have in order to make those rates available so that municipalities can take advantage of converting from non-LED to LED and lower the cost. In the long run, it'll save a lot of maintenance and costs associated with lamp replacements, because on an LED street light, you don't have a lamp. If it goes out, we just replace the fixture. So it's a lot easier. So I wanted to mention that is something that we followed up on this past summer regarding the LED street light rates for Entergy-owned lights.
Okay, and it sounded like Councilman Trusclair said, when we got the reports and these numbers, they are constant, you know what I mean? And to add on what Mr. Guidry has said is the fact that we have a system that tells where we have all of these lights at. To go along with, I'm supporting what they're saying, not to go along with, I'm supporting that. It's the fact that I can't fathom why two people couldn't get together and say, hey man, look, let's get together and have lunch or something like that.
Right.
There's a problem. We can't figure out who's responsible for this.
Yeah.
And I must say, quite frankly, right now, the people of Terrebonne Parish lost because two people didn't have a simple conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it's something that needed to be done, and it wasn't. So, my commitment to the council is to make sure that we do have that follow-up to ensure that we reconcile between the parish and the Entergy lighting team and operations teams where these repairs need to be made, so we're all on the same page.
I'm sure with that statement coming out your mouth, and I'm pretty sure that you're going to get a promise from Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government that will happen.
Yeah, thank you.
That will happen.
Yeah.
The other part about that, the part about the cameras throughout the parish. Ms. Rome, you said you talked to Officer O'Brien, and I have a passion about these cameras, and that's part of the problem too, because we've actually done an assessment on certain things, but these are things that is costing us money and actually helping the criminals. Mm-hmm. The activities of us actually serving the people as being able to actually deter crime also. So it's very, very important that we have that conversation between Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and Energy. And if we had to talk to Sleeker too, and then we have that same problem with Sleeker, I stand to be reckoned with right now that we should be having that conversation. It's too many times for us to be talking about trying to figure out whether it's a decorative light or it's not a decorative light, and we're trying to figure out money. Money. Mm-hmm. It costs the people money. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So you made mention of something else in reference to $293,077, I think it was, that was in saving.
That was a credit that was issued back to the parish for the damages of streetlights that weren't being used based on the assessment.
Based on the assessment.
Yeah.
So. You know what I mean? So oftentimes we hear, we got 5,000 people that's out of power and stuff like that. How many people that was affected by this saving, or how was this calculated that we got this particular amount of savings?
So what I did is I used the assessment, and it was 59% was the damage assessment for Terrebonne Parish after they were completed. And if you look in the chart, for the first month we went ahead and gave the parish 100% credit on their entire streetlight bill. And then for the next 3 months, we did a 59% credit based on the assessment of how many streetlights were found to be damaged or missing. And then because we started doing repairs in January, we went ahead and gave you half of that. So the overall percentage that the parish got for that 5-month period was 61% of the total billed amount that's how we came up with the $293,000.
Yeah, and it's information from both sides. You know what I mean? We're both friendly, but we just have to just take care of the business. You know, and I appreciate the job that you guys are doing. No offense to Mr. Toops and his ability, and all Mr. Brown's. I think we've gotten to a point that I don't think this should be coming up again.
Yeah, I hope not.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Because, you know, time is money, money is time. And it's affecting the people, you know what I mean? And I have a lady out here, she's concerned about the cameras and what she have over here. A gentleman in the back over there, he has an area that he's concerned because the crime is, you know what I mean, it runs rapid when you don't have no lights, you know what I mean? So I appreciate, again, the nerves for coming up here because
okay.
sometimes we're not as gentle people. And I can go along with Mr. Dirt there, you know what I mean, at times, but I'm a friendly guy, and I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Navy.
No, just a quick comment about the LED lighting, the efficiency and effectiveness of it, by the way. The data reports, the data that I actually researched on, is that the efficient for as crime areas. It lights up the streets, first of all, and the area, the neighborhood. So LED lights is very efficient and effective. The other aspect of it, roadways. Roadways down here are not the most terrific roadways. Okay, there's a lot of difficulties traveling. It lights up the roadway where people can actually maneuver in a better manner. So LED lighting is very efficient and effective. I hope that you all do transition to a lot of those LED lighting like Mr. Brown was saying, because it is effective, especially in those high crime areas. And that's the data that I reviewed and reported, and you all know that.
Oh yeah, it's true. I mean, the lumens per watt that come out of an LED light are much higher than other light sources.
Absolutely correct. And the data reports, especially in the high crime areas, how effective it is. That's why I definitely would like it, my community and my district, LED lighting. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Nobody else don't want it. That's fine with me, but I want it. I know you all want it. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Babin.
Yes. Yeah, Al, you know, we've heard tonight, it's a shared responsibility. That the ball was dropped on for Entergy and what I'm hearing in the parish, okay? We got to get those two things together because we can't keep doing this every 2 or 3 months.
Right.
I mean, the 9 of us sitting up here have egg on our face every time a customer calls us and complains, or constituent, I should say, calls and complains. The only thing I do have to say, though, is if I had to give a $293,077 credit, I'd be looking to go get some lights back in those places so I could get that revenue, okay? Right. That's well, not appalling, but that's mind-boggling to me that Entergy wouldn't want to go out and try to get some of this hooked up so they could get that revenue source again. Right. That's a lot of money. It may not be a lot of money to Entergy, but it's a lot of money to us.
Yeah.
So in any event, I hope that tonight is, as Mr. Harding just got through saying, the end of this, and a group of people with Entergy can sit down with a group of people at Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, and hopefully by Christmas we got lights out there, okay? Thank you, Al and Paula.
Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
Yeah, and again, about these LED lights, the long-term effects, I want to put it out there so it can be fully understood. The long term, it actually saves the parish money, even though it actually costs. And then generally we have these lights that actually are high maintenance type lights. You just go up there and change the bulbs.
Right.
And I think they're rather effective. It's going to be a process, and I don't think nobody up here that's sitting up here that don't want any lights for their actual district. So whatever way they actually do it, and what is best suited for their district, I am supporting that also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Amity?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I want to go back to the lights and the LED lights, the bulbs and the LEDs. So you're changing the whole fixture when you go to LED.
Correct.
That thing goes out, who replaces it?
Well, if it's an Entergy owned light, we replace it. If it's a parish-owned light, then the parish replaces it.
So if we have those nice little acorn lights and we put an LED type bulb in that thing, right now with the regular bulbs, you're replacing them. If they put an LED bulb, then the parish is responsible for
For that, yes.
that repair, so then we would have the total repair on that fixture.
Right.
All right.
What is the life of the bulb compared to a regular light?
It's longer.
Yeah, LED is much longer
Yeah.
lifespan.
You get a whole lot more
You know,
hours.
we've started putting in LED lights for street lights, but also for private area lights, and they don't really go out. If it happens to go out, it's probably the photocell, so we check the photocell to make sure it's operating correctly. But if the actual fixture goes out, we just take it down and put a new one, and then we have a claims process with our manufacturers to ensure that we get, credited back for damages to materials that they sent to us.
Yeah. We had an experience with the Shreve overpass where they all turned purple. I kind of liked it.
Purple.
I was also told there was a place in, Mr. Brown told me there was a place in Florida that they were driving through and they saw the same thing. It was a manufacturer's defect. But,
Yeah.
no, I was just curious. So then if they changed to LED, then the parish would be responsible because it's on that parish fixture. Now, you're saying if y'all do one on like the wooden poles with Energy's lines running on it,
We do it.
then
We're
y'all would do it.
responsible.
I just wanted to be clear on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you, Al. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
First of all, in decorative lights, which we consider the ornate lights, what do you consider the fiberglass poles and aluminum poles? What does Entergy call them?
We would call those decorative.
So you call them decorative.
Yeah.
The city of Houma calls them a street light pole.
Okay.
Okay? You have a street light that might be on a creosote pole, but a street light pole is fiberglass and aluminum.
Right.
So we as council people are hearing that there is a survey of all decorative lights in all of Terrebonne Parish, Entergy and the city. We're thinking this survey is including all the lights. Well, later we learn that there, the city has the two classifications, and it took several questions to ask, well, these fiberglass aluminum, does it include energy? It doesn't include energy. And, we just found out, I think, 2 weeks ago, that it did not include energy. Now, as far as the city process, I can tell you the city is not waiting for FEMA to do the lights. We are paying for the lights out of Terrebonne Parish taxpayers' money, but we want to get reimbursed by FEMA. And in order to do that, there has to be a process to go to bid. That is out to bid right now, October 25th. We'll receive those bids and do it. Does not include energy. So now, our FEMA consultants have to put a bid package together to repair Entergy lights that are now we learned parish owned. You have there's 1,214 of these lights that are out there. Now some of them are included in that what we call decorative, the ornate ones, but most of this 1,214 are not ornate. You have 102 that have been reported damaged or out. And those, I can tell you, those 102 are out. That doesn't mean the arm is pointing in the wrong direction. I noticed the photograph that you put up there had two lights, but it looked like they might have been both together or something because there was something squirrely going on with the light. So obviously somebody's got to go out and fix that light that was out there. And so those we don't get reported. I had a utility customer who called me one time and said, when is the power coming back up? My power's been off for 30 minutes. And I said, well, give me your address. And I called our utilities people, and they said, nobody ever reported it. Well, I'll send somebody out there. People just assume that other people report it sometimes, and they don't report it. So if we have 102 that have been reported, I can guarantee you, based on our surveys, there's a lot more than that of the 1,200 that are out there.
Could be, yeah.
And you can meet with Ernest and go back and forth, but I can tell you what we need, knowing we need a list, a spreadsheet of all those 1,214 and their address. Because I can tell you Royal's going to have to send a survey crew to all 1,214, and they're going to have to note whether it's pointing the wrong way, missing a head, missing an arm, whether the light doesn't even exist, is not there, because it was completely blown away. And then they're going to have to prepare a bid package together because you know, if there is 400 of these lights or 500 of these lights, city crews can't do that in between connects and disconnects and everything else. We're going to have to hire a contractor. So if you can get the parish the list of the 1,214 locations, preferably in a spreadsheet or database,
Right.
I guarantee you we can send that right to Royal and they can begin that process. And the
Okay.
sooner we begin it, the sooner we can get these repaired. I think that's simply all we need to do on that.
Okay.
So if you could take care of that, I think we can start moving forward
Okay. I'll do
on
that.
these decorative street light poles, whatever we want to call
Whatever,
them.
yeah.
But thank you, Al.
Thank you, Councilman Guidry.
Mr. Toops, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I have one question for Al, and it's kind of in regards to Councilman Dirk Guidry's question. Energy shares a shape file with our GIS department. I believe it's once a year. Correct, Al?
Yes.
But that GIS, all it shows is the location of your lights. It doesn't indicate whether they're working or not, correct?
Yes.
So we patrol our lights in the city, and we are active in changing them out as they burn, in addition to getting the calls from our constituents that report that a light is out. So you don't actually have a team that goes out at night and goes around and checking which lights are not. You just rely on the reporting system from the people in the parish. Is that correct, Al?
Yes. Yes.
So in Steve's case, he's got, if I understand, Steve, you said you had a complete pole that was missing with a light?
Yeah.
And it was reported?
Yes, a fiberglass pole with a light that I actually had to get, after the storm was laying down, it was still energized for probably a month after the storm. And I got the city to come out or someone came out and cut the power off of it. But all they did was wiring up the wires and just left them hanging out there, some hot wire just hanging. So just recently, in the last couple of months, I got Ernie to go out there and put some kind of cage around it so those wires weren't just sticking up for kids to play with. But yeah, the pole's gone. They came and cut the pole off, got it out with the fixture. It's a fiberglass decorative pole. But there's several, well, that's the only one I know of that's down. There's several of them that's turned and twisted in a couple subdivisions that have those poles. A lot of them, the light fixtures don't even work. And that's the problem.
Okay. So again, Al, my question is, it's imperative that our people report to Energy either by phone call or getting on the myenergy.com and reporting the lights that are out.
Yes, that would help significantly. That would help us know where these lights are not operating.
Okay, because the GIS, all it shows is the actual physical locations of the poles. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Guidry?
Yeah, why can't you guys go out once every 6 months and check that out? That's your lights. You know, like in the marshes and down the bay where there's no addresses. If the street light's out, nobody reports it, so it stays out forever. If, you know, it's you guys' company, why don't y'all send at least once every 6 months somebody to go out and check these street lights?
We used to
Because the last couple of times that we did it on the city's expense. We sent the HPD out on all these buyers where they don't even supposed to be for them to check out these street lights.
Right.
It seems like if y'all the company taking care of this, y'all would go out at least twice a year. I'm not saying every month or whatever, but twice a year to check out, see if these street lights are out. You know, why should we have to do it, you know? Because there's places down these bayous and other places where there's no addresses. It's street lights are sitting in the Marshall on Highway 56. I have no idea what the address is.
Right.
I don't have an idea what the GIS location is.
Right.
So, you know, it seems like a company like you guys, at least y'all could send one guy every 6 months out riding around to see if they got street
And
lights.
that's a good question. I can follow up and find out. I mean, I know
You know,
we
because I've asked this question before.
We used to do. I
You
know
know?
we used to do night patrols.
Yeah. You know, and I don't.
What's in the tariff?
What?
You know, it shouldn't be. You know, you can't. It's ridiculous to go out every month and do it. But
Right.
semi-annually, it seemed like it would be a good
Right.
idea to go and do it.
Right.
So, but I'd appreciate if y'all do that, Al, because like I said the last time, that we got it done. Mr. Dove sent HPD out there to do it twice, and that's not HPD's job. It's better, with all the crime they got going on, for send HPD down these bayous where they're not even supposed to be patrolling to check for streetlights?
Yeah.
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think, you know, to add on to what Mr. Dirk Guidry said, you know, we're going to send somebody out to all 1,214 parish-owned lights that is in your system, but this won't include the lights that he's mentioning that are on the creosote poles.
Yeah, the Entergy poles.
You know, and so, you know, that's, you know, we're going to rely on you guys to go check those to make sure that they are working. Thank you so much for coming.
Okay, thank you
Appreciate
for
you.
having us.
All right, moving along. A public wishing to address the council as per speaker cards in accordance. No, we need to go into, you're right. We need to go into 6:30 public hearing. Is that a motion, motion by Mr. Dirk Guidry to take up 6:30 public hearing? Second. Seconded by Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? We're in public hearing. An ordinance to amend the 2022 adopted operating budget, 5-year capital outlay budget, and budgeted positions of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Capital Projects Control, $45,000. Valhalla Boulevard Multi-Use Sidewalks, $68,689. Civic Center, $3,000. Transit, $6,325. Add 2 part-time fleet attendants, grade 101. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close, Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Motion to adopt, Mr. Carl Harding. Seconded, Mr. Dirk Guidry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is passed. Item B, an ordinance to enter into an act of exchange with JMB Partnership LLC, including TPCG's abandonment of a servitude in favor of JMB, JMB's transfer of property to TPCG for access to the Bayou Grand Caillou, JMB's transfer of property in fee title to TPCG, and a levee and a drainage ditch, the maintenance and preservation of TPCG's servitude, and JMB's acknowledgement of TPCG's servitudes on the property. Public once, public twice, third time public. Do we have a motion to close? Motion to close, Mr. Carl Harding. Seconded, Dr. Navy. All in favor say aye.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Carl Harding. Seconded, Dr. Navy. Discussion, Mr. Babin.
Yes, I'm gonna vote for this because of the servitude and the fee title that we're gonna be getting out of this. But I just want the general public to know that this mitigation pond not only has a power line, transmission line for Terrebonne Parish running down the middle of it, but Sleeka as well. And 95% of the people I represent are on Sleeka. All of Grand Caillou, all of Bayou Delorge, and a good part of the east side of Houma, including Chabert Hospital, is fed by that line. And this mitigation pond, the mitigation area, is wet compared to what it was in years past. And again, Sleeka is in litigation with this, so I'm not going to get into too much of a detail because I don't know all the details. But I do know that without specialized equipment, we will not be able to get in there, be it Terrebonne Parish, and there's only 6 poles that are in the wetted area, but Sleeka will not be able to get in there and repair things. We were out longer for electricity after the storm because of this mitigation pond, in my opinion. So in any event, I will vote to do this, but I want the citizens to know this is a very crucial area for all of Grand Caillou, by Delorge, and Chabert Hospital. Thank you.
Not seeing any more discussion. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is passed. Item C, an ordinance authorizing TPCG to enter into an agreement for the Charlton P. Roseanne's Park Extraordinaire, also known as Leveron Street Park. Public once, public twice, third time public.
Motion to close.
Motion to close, Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion to adopt, Mr. Dirk Gidry, seconded Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is adopted. Item D, an ordinance authorizing TPCG to acquire property for the Charlton P. Roseanne's Park Extraordinaire, also known as Levron Street Park. Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion closed, Mr. Harding, seconded Mr. Gidry. All in favor say aye. Do we have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Okay.
Those opposed?
Motion to adopt, Mr. Harding, seconded Mr. Gidry. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ordinance is approved. E, the proposed 2023 parish budget and 5-year capital outlay budget.
Motion to continue.
Do we have a motion to continue? Do we have to call public? Public once, public twice, third time public. Motion to continue, Mr. Dirk Gidry, seconded Mr. Steve Trosclair. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion to go back in regular order, Mr. Amity, seconded Mr. Harding. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? We're on the presentation from the Home and Terrebonne Airport Commission on projects and updates.
Mr. Gidry and the council, thank you so much for this opportunity to bring you up to speed on what we're doing out at the airport. I think it was about 2 years ago we came to the council and told you
If you don't
about.
mind, state your name.
I'm sorry.
And address for the record.
George Ray, R-E-Y, 3712 Lake Aspen Drive, West Gretna, Louisiana.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. My bad. But I believe it was about 2 years ago we were able to tell you more about the vision and where we were going, and we've had a lot of accomplishments since then, and I'd like to bring you up to speed on that. And with the first slide, we already starting to pick up new members, colleagues to help us take our vision forward. But before I go any further, the Home and Terrebonne Airport commissioners are here with us tonight, and Mr. Casey and Mr. Alford, and the executive staff is here with us as well, and Mr. Pellegrin and Mr. Hicks. So they're here tonight as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started and take you through these slides. We talked a couple of years ago about our goals and our vision and the support we were looking for from the parish, the state, and areas to go forth and to get FAA approval on a lot of things we needed approved, and they want to make sure that the community is supportive of what we're doing. And so we thank you for the support we have gotten to that point. So the strategy going forward was to build around all the FAA requirements we have to meet as we bring in new tenants that we hope to have at the airport. Work with our staff to expand the staff. We're growing out there, so new opportunities. And then we're also not only looking for the public investment piece, but the private investment piece and public-private partnerships. So we'll talk about that as well. So the thing that we're all about at the airport now with the unmanned aircraft for the Gulf of Mexico Center of Excellence is the idea that we're going to be trying to bring in companies that want to fly these large unmanned aircraft. And over a period of time, we're going to have to go through steps with the FAA to ensure safety. So we'll start out with crewed flights, and then we'll move on to optionally piloted, where instead of two, there'd be one and a smart AI computer sitting next to the single pilot. And then finally, when they get up in the air, we'll have to have remote, and we'll talk about that, how we'll fly them remotely. And then eventually, in 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you're going to start seeing fully autonomous aircraft. So that's the excitement that's coming to Home and Terrebonne Parish as we grow. So I wanted to show you, let's see if I can, there we go. what the spread is out at the airport. You can see the main runway that runs north and south. We call that 1836. And then to the east of that is the campus area that the commissioners has set aside 38 prime acres for this investment. And we're developing 2 plots with everything in between is where we're trying to attract customers to come and build and bring their high technology engineers and scientists to come work with us to develop this technology. Tonight we're going to focus mainly on the UGC campus and what we're doing there as well. So one of the early things that we were able to accomplish was a grant from EDA. That EDA grant we received was a little over $1.5 million, and with state and the HTAC investment in that project came in at about $2 million. The problem was, by the time we got the grant, the price of concrete had gone through the roof, and so we had to de-scope the project. EDA worked with us on that so we could still move forward. And so the phase 1 we have just completed. In the upper left-hand corner is actually the Google Earth map from the satellites. You can actually now see the ramp area and the connector that goes with it. And we're closing that project out. You got to go step by step with the EDA. And then we'll be getting the documentation to fill out the next application for phase 2. That will then complete the rest of the project we could not complete in phase 1 and get the base infrastructure for these unmanned aircraft established at the home of Terrebonne Airport. The other thing is this year the state finally stepped up and provided a $3 million budget line item for the first time for us, for the UAS, all wrapped around what we call RPA, or remotely piloted aircraft. So anything that has to do with that, we can expend those dollars on it. So the area that we're moving out on is to put an RFQ out for architects and engineer firms to bid on making all the engineering plans we have to go to bid with. So that's our next step in this process. So we're in the working with Cutchison Grove, which is one of our engineering firms out of the Dallas area that has close ties with the FAA to make sure everything we do will be accepted by the FAA. So we hope to have that initial review done by the end of next week, and then we'll build up the advertisements for the RFQ with that, and it encompasses the $3 million for them to come in. Right now, the A&E is projected to be, for both of those, around the 2.5, but we want some cushion because everything's been coming in so high with all the bid packages that we're seeing across the state. So we'll leave a cushion. If they come in low, one of the things we want to turn back to is we have a real necessity to have a ARF, or an air rescue fire station, on the airport. We do not have one, and that's always been a Achilles heel to attracting new businesses. In fact, most recently we got another company who wants to fly in with one of their very large aircraft, and the first thing they ask in their email, if we fly in, do you have an ARF? So you can see it's an important piece of our puzzle to make sure that we accomplish getting on in time an air rescue firefighting facility on the airport itself, because it's very specialized because of the type of fires you get with an aircraft. So with that, the next thing is the utilities. Right now, we just completed a study. We have a problem with water pressure out at the airport, and as we bring more and more customers on, that's just going to bring another problem of pressure drop. And you have to have a certain amount of flow and pressure to meet FAA requirements for sprinkler and foam systems in your hangars. So any customer who wanted to establish, they're going to want to know, do we have enough electrical, firefighting, things of that nature. So we've done that study, And we've gone forth to the parish and told them what our needs are and what will happen. If we get an early adopter, and we hope to have one soon, and we don't have that, our fallback plan is to build a large water tank to give us the pressure we need as an interim fix if we get an early bite. And we do have some early bites going on. We'll get to that in just a minute. The real exciting news is the whole idea of electrification that's coming to the airport. And we'll get into that. With electrification, there's some new terms you need to learn that's coming to America and coming big time to the Houma area, and that's advanced air mobility and urban air mobility. Those are the new key terms that you're going to hear bantered about. So everybody goes with AAV and UAM. The distinction is UAM is short hops from downtown to an airport, 50 miles or less, and then the AAM picks up at the 50 to up to 500 miles with full electrical aircraft. So let's get into that and talk about that a little bit. So as you can see, the big news for us here at Houma and for the state is our major tenant, Bristow, has stepped up big time. They have now made letters of intent to purchase over 400 electrical aircraft and base them here. So that's the exciting news. Those aircraft run the gamut over 7 different manufacturers and over the UAM and the AAM types and sizes of aircraft. With that, the excitement comes a new problem we didn't have before, and that is with one aircraft on the ramp, right now it's the 3.2 kilowatts to charge that battery. Put 10 on the ramp, and already you're up into the megawatts. So that's where we're going to start a study and look at how we're going to provide that power, because we can't bring it in over the line. So we'll be talking about developing on airport property someplace. We got to figure out what our footprint's going to be first. It's going to have a power plant to provide power to all these aircraft. As you recall, we have them all fly away when a storm comes. We cleared the runway the next day, and they all started coming back so they could get out to the oil rigs to check on what the condition of the rigs were. So we've got to be able to have power with this new technology to bring them back right after a storm. So let's get into that and talk a little bit about what we're trying to do there. So one of the things in doing a study, you have to understand, well, what is the scope, what is the scale, what is the timeline? And so George Ray sat down and we developed a notional, it's not a Bristow approved, but just to give the group we're trying to pull together what we're trying to get them to study and understand to build what size plant. And as you can see, just with 50 aircraft on the ramp, you need 20 megawatts. When you step up to 150, you need 60 megawatts. I won't take you through the litany, but when you get to the end, in 5 or 10 years, you need 180 megawatts of power. You can't bring that in over line, so that's why we need a plant. So what we're looking at is to be conscious of carbonization and being net zero. What we're looking at is what they call a blue gas smart plant, where you take natural gas, you crack it, you extract the hydrogen, and then you feed the generators the hydrogen. That gives you not 100% net zero, but it's great. It's up on 85 or 90%. So that's going to set us apart, different than any place else in the nation right now. There are a few airports out there that have done this, so we know we won't be the first to do it, but it's the first being done for these types of aircraft. So that's what's exciting, and that's what we'll be bringing to the Houma and to the state, as well as the governor has now had his 2050 plan, and a big part, if you read that plan, is aviation. So they intend to take those dollars that the governor's going to carve out of his budget and invest. So we want to be first at that table to get those dollars brought here to help us institute these types of programs here in the Houma at Terrebonne Airport. The next one goes in to show you what I was just discussing, is the generators, the idea of cracking the natural gas that you have in the area. Then you feed that to a battery stack. What the battery stack does for you is level load. So instead of having a massive generator that's providing it, every time in the morning is the peak flights, and in the evening are the return flights. That's when you need extra power. So that's where you save yourself some sizing and cost by keeping your generator smaller, because you have these battery packs that you're charging during off-peak times to bring in. They've been known in the past as called peakers, because that's what you're doing. You're bringing them in at the peak time. The other thing is solar cells. We'll be looking at developing a solar farm. Right now in the state, the biggest provider of that is Entergy. They have 5 right now solar farms throughout the state, and they provide 750 megawatts of solar power right now, and they just signed an agreement to go into the wind generation out in the Gulf of Mexico. That was in the papers just recently. So we want to be a part of that plan. We want to bring that to our area and to make that happen. So that's what we're getting ready to do, that study to understand that. The next thing I would bring up to you is the idea of, since the storm and the hurricanes before that, we've now got a consolidation of our major tenants now bringing their helicopters back to the home of Terrebonne Airport. And as you go through the list there, you can see now we're coming out of the doldrums when we drop down into the 60,000 flights a year, and we're now bouncing back up to the 90,000 flights a year. That's exciting, because that means they've decided Houma is going to be the new home port for these major helicopter companies. So they all have to sleep, eat, and spend dollars, all those folks who come in. And so hopefully that's going to have a trickle-down effect throughout the economy of the state, of the parish, as we go forward. The other thing with this great consolidation going on, they keep coming back and asking for more parking, because more people are coming to catch those flights. So we do not want to give up our valuable land to flat car parking. One of the new technologies that go along with AAM and UAM is another term you'll get used to hearing. It's called vertiports. And one of the probably the best concepts, and the one that will probably be approved by state fire marshals versus thinking of us older folks, George Jetson and their little thing at the 22nd floor. I don't see 440 going up to the 22nd floor is going to get blessed real quick by the fire marshal. But I believe parking lots are probably going to be the early adopters of this technology. So that's what we're going to work towards. We're building a technical working group at the airport with PHI and Bristow. They're excited to go in this direction. This would also get their customers out of the weather. All these folks fly out, they come back weeks later, and they got to wash their cars down because of the rain, the dust, and all that. And also, it's a security problem. From time to time, we've had break-ins late at night in the cars, people just pulling on doors and then rustling everything inside the vehicle. So we're doing a partnership with them, and this is some of the money we're talking about that the state has and the federal government is now offering. But you have to have a partnership. You have to have government buy-in, that you're on board with what we're trying to do, and we'll talk about that at the end. But this is another exciting venture we will take on out at the airport. Private-public partnerships, our academic partners, I wanted to at least bring to your attention tonight that we are working closely with our academic partners. If we get the slide to come up. There we go. So when we talk about these aircraft, we're really talking about their flying data machines. They're all electric. They're all taking all this computer technology, and they're using what we call megaflops of compute power to be smart enough to fly these aircraft safely in the national airspace. And so we know from test flights that one of these aircraft, after a demonstration flight, when they land, they can have as much as 15 terabytes of data that we have to pull, understand, and go through. That's where our partnership with our academic community will come into play. So we've signed up not only with LA Tech and Nichols and Fletcher for various pieces of that puzzle, but we've also outreached to the University of North Dakota. They have a great program up there with large unmanned aircraft, and they've been extremely successful. And so we're emulating a lot of what they have done and the success they have. So they're one of our big partners to help us and guide us from the data point of view. So we're working hard to make that happen with the academic community. I know this is a very busy slide, but what this slide takes one through is one of the other aircraft is for a test platform is a DA-62. We hope to find the dollars to bring that on board to where we can do demonstration flights at a cheaper cost and to offer that up to the community as well, especially pre-storm, post-storm. We can go up and do some high-quality data gathering, visualization, look for problems on the levee, things of that nature. So that's why we have the Department of Transportation Aviation as one of our team members to make that happen. So the next part is I wanted to bring you up to speed on the early opportunities for economic development that we're having at the airport today. Let's get this slide up. And one of the things that the commissioners at the airport said was, okay, George, so you want us to expend these dollars, you want us to go out and ask for more dollars, is this the right thing to do? So we set about developing a study, and that study was done by a company out of Virginia called Drone Economics. They had done the study. I'm also president of AUVSI for Louisiana, the Association of Unmanned Vehicles International for the state. Started that chapter 3 years ago. And they did a study for the organization, a nationwide study where they looked at every state. So I knew they had some data already on Louisiana, so that's why we contacted them and then contracted them to do a study. And this is the conclusions of that study, just in the early phases of what they project will generate in the terms of payroll, employees that would gather with companies around the airport and things of that nature. And then it pretty well clocks with North Dakota. They've had a number of large companies come in, build hangars with their large unmanned aircraft like General Atomics and Northrop Grumman with big Global Hawks. And they've set up their training facilities there. So there are other folks we'll talk about in a minute who are looking for similar opportunities for the Gulf of Mexico. So the company that we're working with right now, who's locating at the airport, is our first economic success story. It's a South Korean company called 42 Air. They have an international contract with a company called Norton Lilly. They're a port agent around the world, and when your ship comes in, if you're a foreign ship, you have to get all your documentation cleared before you can land, meaning tied to the pier. So you're midstream waiting for authority to come ashore, and so you have to send your passports and other documentation ashore. So someone goes out by boat, climbs a Jacob's ladder, and over the many years, some people have fallen off the Jacob's ladder. So Norton Lilly wants to increase their safety zone, and that's why they've hired 42 Air. And 42 Air, with their drone, has a winch system. They don't land on the boat, they winch the box down, and then they exchange the data. Right now, they're not authorized to actually do that by the FAA. There's a lot of steps you have to go through. We're working with them to do that. So right now, they're demonstrating that capability to a number of local shipping companies in the area. So right now, to demonstrate that, they'd either deliver a king cake or some donuts. So the crew loves that. So we're glad to have them on board. We recently signed the MOU Our job is to work with them on getting certification for the airspace. FAA owns the airspace. We have to satisfy all their regulations to do that. The other thing is they have to meet what's called, I know it's digging in the woods a little bit, but a Part 135, it's FAA speak that just says if you want to do deliveries, you have to meet all these requirements. And the fastest way to do that is to partner with a company who already has that. So we've set that up with them, and it's a local company. It's our FBO on the airport called Apex Aero, and they fly a number of aircraft as well, and they have the Part 135. So we finally just did the MOU with all the parties involved. That was great. And now they're off and running to get this paperwork, which will take them about 6 to 7 months to get accomplished. So this is our first great company we've brought aboard, an international company. So we're very excited to work with them and to make them sure that we can get them up and running. Although we don't have our hangar yet, we've done some engineering work to show them what we could do for them. They're back in South Korea with their parent company right now. We shipped the engineering plans to them to show we could have a modular building put at the UGC site and lay some concrete down for parking, and then have a place where they could launch their drone right out the back door of that facility. So we're waiting to get that input from them. We think they'll accept that, and that'll be our first customer we have who signed up to work here with it. With that responsibility came a whole new thing they asked us. They said, hey, we've been in South Africa manufacturing drones, and we're not happy with the product, and we're not happy with how long it takes, and we're not happy with the quality. So can you help us find a company here in America, well, naturally, home for us, that we could work with to build our drone products we would like to develop? And with that, there we go. I reached out to KB Industries, which is right here in Houma. If you're not familiar with KB Industries, they're probably one of the most technologically advanced companies. If you've ever taken a tour and seen their facilities, and especially in what we call additive manufacturing. That's where you're adding something versus you're taking off with a lathe or something to shave it away. And they've jumped into that game, and they've done a number of aeronautic projects that require FAA certification. So we've married them up. We've had a number of meetings, and on the right-hand side is the types of materials that you can put into one of these 3D printers, and we're trying to understand those properties and cost, and that's where we're at with that partnership right now. I dare say that it'll come out and be successful, and we will start manufacturing drones right here in the parish for the first time for international sales. One of their big markets is South Africa with this company. So it's a great time to be available to these technologies that are coming our way. The company that they're looking to work with is another South Korean company called Dosen. We just recently hosted Dosen at Nicholls State University, where we brought in a number of the industry leaders from around the state, and a couple out of the state came by as well to see this flight demonstration that we put on with their hydrogen drone. What's different about this is all drones right now are battery powered. When you get up to the big size, you get about 45 to 50 minutes of flight. You got to land it, change the battery out, and everybody's looking for endurance. And this particular aircraft will give you 2 hours with the hydrogen endurance. So they're setting up shop in America right now. They've really liked all the work we've done to help them show off their product. And so we're in early discussions to see if we can't get them to come and set up shop here at the airport and use this as their anchor spot for bringing in. So we let them know we're a federal trade zone out at the airport, and if they would just ship their parts in, they could save a lot of money by assembling them here. So already, going back to 42 Air, they're asking us to help them find about 3 technicians that they're looking for right now to bring on board to start setting up their shops. So we're already starting to see the employment picture and technology will start to grow. These are early steps, but I think there are going to be many more if North Dakota is any indication of that. The next thing is on Monday, we're bringing in both government and private companies to come see us. The Air Force has a high-tech program they call AFWorks. Within that group is a spin-off group called Agility Prime, and they're about qualifying all these new UAM, AAM products. The Air Force is very interested in them, and they're looking to see where they can go to get the empirical information of these early flights of these aircraft. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Reliable Robotics is a West Coast company that's flying strictly autonomous aircraft. And their parent, their sponsor is FedEx. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And Bristow is a big part of what we're doing, and they will be at the meeting on Monday discussing how do we partner up, how do we go forward, what's the investment criteria, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So a little bit about the Agility Prime. They're sitting on $100 million of investment dollars. And for this technology, for demonstration flights, we want to be a part of that. They're going to set up in Florida at Eglin Air Force Base for the military demonstration side, and they're coming to talk to us about how they can participate in the program we hear and what are the investment possibilities where we could run demonstration flights where they get the data. So that's why Bristow is going to be part of the conversation on Monday. And they've already, this company called Beta has just recently flew that aircraft, the Aliyah 250, over an 8-state jaunt to show the demonstration capability and charging those aircraft. And this is one of the aircraft that Bristow has signed up to get 50 of these. So that's exciting news. One of the real partners who've opened these doors to us is the Padina Group, which is a bunch of FAA retired executives who all ran at the top level. So they have the real insight and can pick up the phone easily and talk to the FAA. And they're the ones who've been opening up a lot of doors for us. And if you look at North Dakota, they did the same thing to move their program along. So these are all the opportunities that are coming our way. The next one, this shows you the Caravan aircraft. It has now flown multiple flights where we call it OPA, optionally piloted aircraft, where you take it off, but you hit a button, and then it flies everything autonomously at that point. And now, in the last 2 months, they have actually flown it fully autonomous with a chase aircraft behind it that has control of it if something were to go wrong. And they've been flying between 2 of the general aviation airports on the West Coast for FedEx. So FedEx is looking to expand this technology, and we're hoping to set up shop with them to come out and test here. Because obviously, if you can test here and fly here, that means FedEx can set up shop here. So that's the long and short of why we're excited to be hosting them on Monday to make that happen. The other company I'm talking with is out of Virginia, Quantico. They're one of the leading DoD, Department of Defense, providers of the artificial intelligence that goes into these technologies. The company's called Cyberbytes, and they're right now been given another $100 million to look at how do you take the training that they've set up for DoD and take it to the civilian community. And they're looking where it's really needed, where there are going to be flights or some type of AI demonstration going on. So we've told them what we're doing. They're very excited. We're again trying to set up that meeting. What they would bring to town is their training program, look for folks to come into the training program, and we're in the early stages of talking with Nicholls State University to be a part of that and to set up shop at the airport. And typically they build a building to go around that. And they bring in what they call their portable supercomputers as part of the training. It actually fits in 3 40-foot vans. And you just power them up, and you have supercomputers for the students to work on to do the artificial training. Their program is not about getting an associate degree or a graduate degree. You can go on and do that. In this world today, it's all about getting your certificates for either cybersecurity or threat analysis or what have you. And once you get those tickets, that's what industry is looking for, that you are very focused on a very specialized area. So we're going to work with Nichols to bring them to town is my goal, and to have them set up, and then to offer that training to our community and hopefully attract a whole set of local folks to want to get this type of training to bring in aboard. On November 9th, I talked earlier about airspace. It's great to have the infrastructure. It's great to have the birds. If you don't have airspace, we can't get off the ground. So the Padina Group has such great contacts with the executives at the highest level of FAA. They have set up a meeting with the number 2 VP at FAA to come down, see what we're doing, because in the end, it's going to be his signature that says yay or nay to what we're doing. And after the pre-brief he got from us, he was very excited because we hear this a lot. Nobody's doing what you guys are doing. A lot of PowerPoints, but not a lot of people doing. So he's excited to come down. He's bringing his staff with him. We're excited to host him. We think great things will come out of that relationship and help us go forward. So wrapping up, I like to put this up because it's all about safety. If you don't know it, this is runway 1836 pointing south. And when you take off, you're over the wetlands. You're over the swamps, you're over the bayous, you're over the lakes, your feet wet in the Gulf of Mexico. If you've got a demonstration program that might crash, you don't want it around a lot of folks. And so this has got a big plus for us. Not even North Dakota has this capability to attract and set us up as the next test site. There's only 5 right now, and there's rumors that they're looking to bring on a couple more test sites, and we hope to be in that race when the FAA tries to set up some new test sites, because that bespokes of budget opportunities from the FAA to do that. So with that, hopefully I didn't go too long. This is just a snapshot. We would love to have any of you to come out and get a full in-depth brief of what we're doing. But it all started in 2019 when the governor signed his executive order designating the home of Terrebonne Airport as the airport to work with the FAA for a large unmanned aircraft. And what we're asking tonight is to help us with getting our utilities up to speed so we can attract those companies, that they don't have to even think about whether we have water or fire stations or whatever. And then lastly, we would ask that we have not got, but to be a corner piece with the governor and with the airport is a resolution supporting the work we're doing out there. Would be great to put in our packages that we put before the FAA each and every time we go forward, notwithstanding our congressional delegation, who are very supportive. And I've got to step up and say Senator Vesey has stepped up big time. He was the one who carried the weight through this last to get a budget line item established for the home of Terrebonne Airport called remotely piloted aircraft. So I wanted to give him his propers tonight as well. With that, I will stop and entertain any questions you have.
Dr. Navy.
Well, I just got a comment. Well, a few comments, and I just want to act on a request too. I definitely appreciate your innovative thinking, creative, innovative thinking, and it's progressive, and it's not antiquated, because the system that we have right now is antiquated. But at the end of the day, I still think that what you're doing also, and this may be top secret, I don't know, but are you planning on to expanding the airport? Because with all this great work, this is going to bring revenues, it's going to bring employment, jobs. It seemed like the airport would need to be expanded too. I hope that's in the near future.
Yeah, we have what's called a master plan. Every airport has to have one. And in the master plan, it's been in there for the last 3 iterations that you can go pick up the old books and see it. And right now, we have 2 places. The first is an extension of 8,000 feet, and then the next would be at 10,000 foot. We believe those are justifiable lengths. We need support, and we're going to have to buy some land. And we're just now doing a study with Nichols to take a look at who are all the owners, how are they all classified, what are the laws pertaining to wetlands and ag land and timberland, and then to better understand what is the true cost per acre for this raw and developed land. So when we go and make those pitches, once we have the dollars, that we can accomplish that. But it's in the master plan, and we're getting ready this coming year. It's budgeted to update it.
By that time, my house will be for sale, okay? We definitely buy my, but no, but I think that's needed, really, the expansion, because that's going to be productive for Terrebonne Parish.
Yes, sir.
If we plan on being this part of this process in the future, I don't know when I'm going to be with that, when that happens, but I just hope that that does happen. And I know that you all are, and Josh, you're about to be pointed back to this board, make sure this happens, okay? But I just want to make sure that, that you understand that. The other request that I have, I know you mentioned something about your drone program, and I just retired from Ellen High School as a guidance counselor, but we have a drone program there, and I would like to see if we can take some kids over there to visit that drone project that you all are maybe doing, or visit the airport in general, because a lot of kids are very interested about what goes on in the airport and don't really know what you all are doing over there. So if that's something I can plan in the near future.
I think that'd be a great idea. I think the
you.
way to handle that would be to get Dr. Balaje to come to the airport. We can set up the statics of all the different drones.
Thank you.
And then we could probably take them over to Bristow and let them actually see a helicopter up.
And Stevie Smith going to pay for lunch, by the way, okay? Yeah. But no, I appreciate that. But
yes,
again,
we can make that happen.
Again, that I love what you're doing. This is extraordinary. I think this is going to be very progressive for Terrebonne Parish. But that airport needs to expand. I hope you get a lot of support from this council and the state and the feds on that. I just really hope that happens. But I appreciate what you just presented
We
to
are
us.
pumping hard and fast.
Well,
yes,
this council
Thank
will
you.
be very supportive, especially Dirk Gidget right there. He's military, ex-military. Thanks a lot. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
just to let you know, I'm a 33-year retired submarine commander.
Wow, wow. Thank you, sir, for your service, too.
Mr. Babin.
George, every time I hear this presentation, I learn that much more, because, I mean, it is growing, it is fluid, and, I mean, we've heard it a number of times, or Dirk and I have been there plenty. You asked for a resolution of support from this council?
Yes, for the UGC.
I'd like to make a motion that this council writes up whatever we need to do to have the letter of support for all of this work. I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll send it to legal to make sure that it gets.
That'd be great, because that's important with the FAA.
Sure.
There's an old saying that they tell me, since I started with Nichols, we got the first authorization to fly in the state back 12 years ago. I set that up, and back then they said, George, make sure you got your politics right, because the last thing is if half are for you and half are against you, we're not coming to town.
Well,
So they're right.
I see Mr. Guidry with Tita sitting in the back. I know he's been to speak to y'all. This is all exciting for Terrebonne Parish. This is high tech. With high tech comes high-paying jobs.
Absolutely.
Right? So we want to do that. And just as a sidebar, it's on much smaller drones than what you're talking about. The mitigation pond I spoke of earlier that took 30 days to get power back to those areas, it was so remote and so wet that they actually used drones to bring in the lunch to the people who were working in the marshy area, okay? So that's how important the drones are getting in our society today.
Yes, sir.
So without them, it might have taken 40 days to get that electricity
Yes, sir.
back. But thank you very much, sir. And I don't know if we need a second to the motion and vote on it.
I'll take it.
Okay.
I'd like to ask for a unanimous second.
Well, to clarify, it's a motion to ask legal to put together a resolution to present to us?
Yes, to have legal put together a resolution of support from this council to the airport.
And
I'm asking for unanimous second.
Mr. Guidry is calling for unanimous second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Mr. Hebert. Are you finished, Mr. Babin?
Yes.
Mr. Dirk Guidry?
Mr. George, every time I hear this presentation, I get more and more excited. Being an Air Force man, this is the future of Terrebonne Parish, this could be bigger than the oil industry in Terrebonne Parish. Look how many jobs you're going to give, 1,400 and something they could go up to, you know? And that's not counting all the other companies that come around, restaurants, gas stations, anybody, you know, that's the economic of what they can do for Terrebonne Parish is astounding, you know what I mean? And no telling what the future will bring after we start getting this. You don't know FedEx is going to start bringing in a lot of planes or whatever, and it helps our young kids out to maybe want to stay home in this area because of the high-paying dollar jobs. And some of these kids that moved out of here might want to come back into this area. So whatever I can do to help you guys, just ask. And to all you board members, my hat goes off to y'all. Thank y'all a lot, because I know y'all been working very hard at this I know I've been listening, me and Danny been listening to it for 5 or 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, you know. So I know y'all been working at it hard for a long time, and it looks like it's finally starting to come into fruition. So if there's anything I can do or this board can do to help y'all, please ask. And I mean, it's just a big economic influence into this parish. So thank you a lot, Mr. George.
Yes, sir. I've started out with the airport back in '04 when they asked me to come help them find the money to redo the runway. So I've been in front of a number of the different commissioners over the years, and I would say, without a doubt, this is the most forward-leaning group that we have today that I've ever seen. And they encourage me every day to work harder and to do more. And I can't give them enough kudos, because without their blessing, it's hard to go forward with anything.
Yeah, and I think, you know, whatever we got to do as a parish council or as a parish to get you guys more water pressure there, extend the runways, or whatever we got to do to help you guys, please ask, because we need to get it done, and done as fast as we can. So,
yes, sir.
And I know that the fire department, y'all need a new fire station, so whatever we can do to help y'all, please ask.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Babin?
Yeah, just one quick. You're right. They have an excellent commission at the airport. We also have an excellent director, and with Mr. Burton Pellegrin, who is very forward-thinking, Naval Academy graduate, fighter pilot, the whole bit, and Mr. Earl Hicks does a great job there. So you're a lucky man that you have that surrounding you, and we lucky that all of you guys are there, because this is, again, I'm old, but some of these younger ones are going to see some of this stuff, and it'll all come to fruition over the next few years. So thank you for your great work.
Yes, sir.
I think you see there's a lot of passion, and there's a lot of passion in your board, and there's a lot of passion up here to see that you guys are successful, and we're going to provide you every support you need. Thank you all, and thank the board, and and thank all the board members who have attended here today. Of course, Mr. Hicks and Mr. Carlton Casey was back there. Yeah. Thank y'all, and Mr. Josh Alfred. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving along, next, a proclamation proclaiming October 15th, 2022 as Terrebonne 200 Bicentennial Festival Day in Terrebonne Parish. As chairman during the bicentennial year, I'm proud to read this proclamation. It says, whereas on October 22nd, 1822, the first meeting of the Terrebonne Parish Police Jury was convened, marking the beginning of this parish as a governing body in the state of Louisiana. And whereas during the subsequent 200 years, the land known as the Good Earth was transformed from a simple residence of a few thousand farmers, fishermen, trappers, indigenous people into a modern community with over 100,000 permanent residents. And whereas unlike the early settlers who relied on the bounty of the land and waters of this parish, the present citizens of Terrebonne Parish have developed a wide variety of occupations, ranging from oil and gas industries to a tremendous medical community to the prosperous financial institutions and insurance companies to huge retail establishments and more. And whereas while Terrebonne Parish is known for many things, such as great food, superior fishing and hunting opportunities, and celebrations such as Mardi Gras and festivals, locals know that the best aspect of Terrebonne Parish is the people who populate our community, their love for the land, and their respect for one another. And whereas the year 2022 has been declared the Terrebonne Parish Bicentennial Celebration Year, and whereas a festival will be held in downtown Houma on this Saturday, October 15th, 2022, from 11 a.m. until 8 p.m., and a parade will be held from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. to continue celebrating this momentous milestone for Terrebonne Parish. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the entire Terrebonne Parish Council on behalf of the Terrebonne Parish President Gordon E. Dove and the entire Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government that October 15th, 2022 be proclaimed Terrebonne 200 Bicentennial Festival Day in Terrebonne Parish, and that all citizens of Terrebonne Parish are encouraged to celebrate the Terrebonne Bicentennial by attending the festival and parade presented this 12th day of October 2022, signed by Parish President Gordon E. Dove and myself, Darren W. Guidry Sr., Council Chairman, and Mr. Chris Pulaski, if you could accept this as the chairman of our festival day.
Sure, I'll keep it brief. So yeah, as Parish President Dove mentioned earlier in the meeting, we do have the festival this Saturday. We've got a lot going on. We've got a lot of great live music lined up, food, crafts. We have a lot of demonstrations. We have dancers. We have a couple of surprises. We do have a time capsule that we're going to be burying, and today I was over there looking at the library where they were accepting all of the items that people have been dropping off, and it's going to be pretty amazing. First, it'll be amazing if we get it all in there. But second, it's going to be like a little Tetris puzzle. But it's some pretty impressive material. We do have the parade lined up. I'm excited about the number of participants, and I think it's going to be just beautiful with all those vintage cars rolling down Barrow Street in Maine. And we do have a crawfish pie eating contest. We do have participants that you'll know. And then we'll pull maybe one or two wild cards out of the crowd, so that'll make it fun. And then we have a surprise contest for the kids. I can't divulge too much, but it should be a lot of fun. And like was said earlier, the people of the parish are what makes Terrebonne so special. And certainly this festival, along with all of the presentations all year long, would not be possible without the special people that we have helping us with all those activities, presentations, the subcommittees, all the festival planning. I mean, there's a ton that goes into it. I'm sure a lot of you have been involved in one form or another, so you understand what I'm talking about. But I think we'll be blessed with some good weather, and we're really looking forward to celebrating Terrebonne's birthday. So thank you.
Thank you very much,
Hope
Chris.
to see you all there.
All right, next item is public wishing to address the council as per speaker cards in accordance with Section 2-07E of the Terrebonne Parish Home Rule Charter. The public will be heard and can speak for 3 minutes on any matter related to parish government without discussion or questions and answers on non-agended items. Our first speaker is Mr. Kevin Pellegrin.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to make sure I specify, I was asking to speak specifically on item 1C, the streetlights, to echo Entergy's comments. So that's where my discussion will stick around. Okay. I'd like to thank y'all very much for allowing me to speak this evening. Chairman, council representatives. My name is Kevin Pellegrin. I live at 321 Sugar Plum Street. I'm a resident, taxpayer, and a volunteer president of the Southern States Homeowners Association, and here representing Southern States Homeowners Association in relation to the streetlight issue that we continue to talk about. You know, we've talked about it for quite some time. You know, I don't know if y'all remember me coming up and talking late February, but our common conversation that we had around that was, hey, we need to energize all the streetlights around West Park, West Main, everywhere there's on a parade route. That was our focus, safety of our residents. And I wish Mr. Al was still here, because I'd like to thank him because he did stay true to his promise. He sent a contracting crew into our subdivision. When he sent it into our subdivision, he ensured that every light was looked at. Anything that was Entergy's responsibility was repaired. He did stay true to his promise. I just want to make sure we set the record straight to that, and I want to publicly thank him, even though he's not here. I followed up in late April to a message to the Utilities Department. What's our next update? I was then informed, surprisingly, that decorative streetlights will now be 9 months out to a year. I don't know about y'all. To me, that's unacceptable. As a concerned citizen of this parish, there is no reason why we should be still waiting 9 months, over a year after the storm, to have something replaced. You know, so I'll tell you right now, I got a little heated. And I'm going to digress for just a moment. I went to the council secretary. I asked for a petition. I'm starting a petition to ask for the escalation of the repair of these streetlights, since apparently the parish won't do it. We have a process of a 21-day turn-in. From the moment you report the streetlight, 21 days, it should be either identified that it's Entergy's problem or the parish's problem. So, when we look at it, every one of the parcels in my subdivision, out of the 220, you have 3.5 mills that are charged to each property, roughly $12,500 on an average, okay? So $12,500 that our taxpayers are paying for these streetlights. Guess what? For a year, we haven't had them. For 2 years, we haven't had them. You got a reimbursement from Entergy? Reimburse us. The parish is failing us. The parish is failing us. I will say it a third time. The parish is failing us. We need to work together. I can't deal with this anymore. I'm a volunteer. I don't get paid for my job. My role as a president of the Southern States Homeowners Association is to ensure that all of our residents feel safe in the 220 parcels. And guess what? When you have somebody that can't see when they run in the morning because there's no street lights, one street, let's say 20 lights, you got 8 that work. The other one's got 23, maybe 10 work. That's sad. We're over a year later. So I send an email because Utilities is still not answering me. I addressed Mr. Mike Toops in that email.
Oh, we're not supposed to discuss staff items, so just talk about the issue, just not about an individual.
Yeah, that's what,
okay.
Yeah. So as I addressed that, I asked for an update. Here we are yet again, 9 to 12 months. 9 to 12 months. We've passed 6 months. Nothing. Zilch. So what's going to happen in another 6 months? Same thing. So I'm continuing with my petition. Right now I have 90 of our residents that have signed it. Once I get 2/3, I'm coming back to you. Just letting you know that's a promise to my residents. Because what you have to look at is that we have a FEMA submittal that's going. We have 59 lights that are going, roughly $200,000 that are being submitted. Most of these lights were not working prior to IDA, but yet we're going to submit them. That is erroneous. That is fraudulent. I was accused of not understanding how government works. Guess what? Government's just like business. If I'm asked to do something within...
Motion to extend, Mr. Dirk Guidry. Seconded, Mr. Danny Babbitt. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? I'm sorry. Go ahead and continue.
Thank you. If I'm asked to do something at work and I don't do it, I get warned. If I don't do it again, I get reprimanded. I don't do it a third time, I get fired, wouldn't I? Our residents are asking, they're pleading, they want help. Let's help them. We have a process in place that is not being followed. It's a 20-day process. Why can't we go back to doing it? We keep pointing the finger of, oh, Entergy does it. Oh, Terrebonne Parish does it. Guess what? Entergy's done their responsibility. I'm asking, let's fix it. Let's do something about it. I've asked time and time again. I'm tired of sending emails. I'm taking action. That's all I can do. You know? If somebody gets hurt in Halloween, what are we going to do then? Somebody's going to get a lawsuit. That's the day of the age that we live in. Somebody's going to get hurt on the right of way. That resident shouldn't be responsible for the parish's inability to maintain their infrastructure. So that attorney's going to start looking for deep pockets. They're going to go after the property owner, and they're also going to go after the parish. Why should we even be going down that path? Let's fix these streetlights. I don't know what we have to do, so I ask you as a council, help us. Help us, help us. I am pleading with you all. Let's get the process reestablished that was before Ida. I have 4 streetlights right on Southern Estates Boulevard. Let's start there. Guess what? Those were turned in July of 2021. Still don't work, but yet they're part of the FEMA proposal. 58 lights out of 78. I'm sorry. We've got to do something. Why are we waiting when we have over $400,000 left in the District 1 fund going into this year? If this $200,000 there would be used, the whole problem will be solved. We have the funds in District 1, according to the public record of the fund from December 31 statement.
Thank you for coming and sharing your passion.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is Lionel Lewis Jr. about lights in Village East and grassed on East and Payne Street.
Lionel Lewis Jr., 143 King Street, Homer, Louisiana. I'm going to skip the Village East lights because I think you guys already addressed the lights issue. So I skipped the lights, but the grass cutting on in between Daniel Turner and Payne Street, which is Bayou Sally that runs from Howard to Prospect, that never looked like that before. Never. You have a retired guy put in his time, he can't even enjoy his front yard for watching snakes crawl through his yard under his mobile home. You got kids back there, that's unsafe. You know, he's been asking for the last 8 months for that grass to be cut. I actually went to David Rome's office last week and was told that the contractor, which is Norris and Boudreaux, said that they would be out there this week. It's Wednesday. Grass still not cut. Ditch still not sprayed. I mean, supposedly y'all gave these guys the contract because the parish government was undermanned. Well, it sounds like to me the contractor's undermanned too. You know, I mean, something needs to be done. That's a hazard, and is unsafe. So I'm asking that somebody up there, you know, do something as far as calling Norris and Boudreaux and turn up the heat. Get them to come cut this grass instead of lying, saying that they're going to do this, and then nothing is done in return. So thank y'all. That's all the time.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention and to Mr. Toops' attention. Next up is committee reports. Public Service Committee, Mr. Amity.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Public Services Committee held on October 10th, 2022, and I have one public hearing to introduce an ordinance authorizing the parish president to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement between North Lafourche Conservation Levee and Drainage District, NLCLDD, and Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, TPCG, for the purpose of improving drainage for the immediate surrounding areas of St. Louis Canal and to make improvements to portions of St. Louis Canal that enter into or located within Terrebonne Parish, authorizing the parish president to execute any and all documents necessary for said purposes, providing for other matters relative thereto, and calling a public hearing on Wednesday, October 26, 2022 at 6:30 p.m.
Motion, Mr. Amity, seconded, Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Community Development and Planning Committee, Mr. Trosclair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Community Development and Planning Committee meeting held on October 10th, 2022, and have 20 condemnation hearings being called on October 24th, 2022 on the following residential, mobile home, commercial, and accessory structures. And they are as follows: 1221 Wallace Street, 138D Louisa's Drive, 7300B Shrimpers Row, 545 West Park Avenue, 108 Prosperity Street, 101 Tulane Street, 161 New Orleans Boulevard, 301 Gray Street, 303A Gray Street, 303B Gray Street, 305 Gray Street, 8051 Park Avenue, 102 Howard Avenue, 8696 Main Street, 104 Howard Avenue, 1915 Eunice Street, 101 Recreation Drive, 113 Ave Street, 116 Morrison Avenue, and 1303 Barataria Avenue.
Motion, Mr. Trosclair, seconded Mr. Guidry. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Budget and Finance Committee meeting, Mr. Harding.
Yes, I make a motion that the council accept and ratify the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee held on October 10, 2022. And I have one public hearing, and that is introducing the ordinance to amend the 2022 adopted operation budget, 5-year capital outlay budget, and to budgeting position of the Terrebonne Parish consolidated government for the following items and to provide for related matters. Home Police Department, $6,263. Home Police Department, $3,989. Parish prisoners, $16,239. City Marshal, $4,291. Brady Road Bridge Replacement, $5,885,000. Home Police Department LCLC Grant, $15,500, and calling for a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, October 26, 2022 at 6:30 p.m.
Motion, Mr. Harding, seconded Mr. Trosclair. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. No need to take any action on street lights as there are none on the agenda to add. 5, appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. The Veterans Memorial District, 2 expiring terms, 1 representing the parish president south of the Intercoastal and 1 representing Lennox Hotard Post 31. Ms. Kayla Duthu, representing Lennox Hotard Post 31, expresses her interest in being reappointed. Motion to open, close, and appoint Ms. Duthu and hold the other over by Mr. Danny Babin, seconded Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Moving to Homa Board of Zoning Adjustments, 1 expired term. Mr. Willie Newton expresses his interest in being reappointed.
Open, close, and appoint.
Motion to open, close, and appoint Mr. Harding. Seconded Mr. Trosclair. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Mr. Newton is appointed. Airport Commission, 1 expiring term. October 6, 2022, Mr. Joshua Alfred expresses his interest in being reappointed. Motion to open, close, and appoint Mr. Alfred by Mr. Babin, seconded by Dr. Navy. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Mr. Alfred is in the audience. Did you want to say something, Mr. Alfred?
I'll just say thank you, and look forward to accomplishing all those goals that you got to see today. So thank y'all.
And thank you for serving. Homa Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, 5 expiring terms on December 31st, 2022. Ms. Judy Smart, representing the Historic and Cultural, and expresses her interest in being reappointed. Mr. Joshua R. Ellender, representing Civic Nonprofit, expresses his interest in being reappointed. And Ms. Cherie Blanchard, representing Civic Nonprofit, expresses her interest in being reappointed. Mr. Harding?
Yes, I would like to ask a question. I think we had some previous situation where we were actually appointing people or supposedly appointing people before the terms were actually up. And I noticed that we're looking at 12/31/22 here.
Ms. Triggs, would you like to address that?
Yes, Mr. Harding, according to their laws and bylaws, they have to be in place by November 1st of every year, according to their bylaws. So we have to appoint them and be in their seats by November 1st. We can't wait to December with this board.
Yeah, so they're different from what the previous boards that we actually had. That I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Is that a motion to
sure
appoint these people? Motion to appoint Ms. Smart, Mr. Ellender, and Ms. Blanchard, and hold the other 2 by Mr. Harding, seconded by Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item E, Coastal Zone Management, 2 expiring terms on October 31st, 2022. Mr. Jeff DeBlue expresses his interest in being reappointed. Motion to open, close, and appoint Mr. W. by Mr. Babin. Seconded Mr. Dr. Navy. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item F, Recreation District Number 23, one vacancy due to resignation. Mr. Chad Quick submits application for consideration. Motion to open, close, and appoint Mr. Quick by Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded by Mr. Steve Trosclair. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Mr. Quick is appointed. Upcoming vacancies of various boards, committees, and commissions. We have Recreation District Number 10 Board, one expiring term on November 8th, 2022. The Terrebonne Parish Tree Board has 2 vacancies due to resignations. The Veterans Memorial District has 1 expired term on September 17th, 2022, representing the parish president south of the Intercoastal. The Children and Youth Services Board has 4 expiring terms on November 5th, 2022 and November 16th, 2022. The Coastal Zone Management and Restoration has 1 expiring term on October 31st, 2022. And the Downtown Development has 7 expiring terms on November 1st, 2022. Planning and Zoning Commission, 1 expiring term on November 30th, 2022. Council representing the African American population. And the Municipal Civil Service Board has 2 expiring terms on November 29th, 2022. And the Houma Area Convention and Visitors Bureau has 3 expiring terms on December 31st, 2022. Monthly Engineers Reports, Milford and Associates, T. Baker Smith, as per Mr. Dirk Guidry. Seconded by Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Staff reports. Resolution authorizing the parish president to execute all necessary documents to submit an application to the Administration for Children and Families for the Head Start program in Terrebonne Parish and to execute the fiscal year 2021 to 2026 5-year, Year 2 Head Start budget application. Moved by Mr. Dirk Guidry, seconded Mr. Carl Harding. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Item B, resolution awarding the contract for the Houma Civic Center chiller replacement to Gallo Mechanical, LLC. Motion by Mr. Steve Trosclair, seconded Mr. Dirk Guidry. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Resolution is passed. Introduce an ordinance authorizing the parish president to execute a lease agreement with 3JM Properties LLC and McIntyre Enterprises LLC and call a public hearing on Wednesday, October 26, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Moved by Mr. Dirk Guidry. Seconded Mr. John Amity. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Announcements. Mr. Toops, anything for the parish president?
None, sir.
Council members? Mr. Trosclair?
Yes, I just want to remind everyone that I don't normally wear pink, but the month of October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and just for everyone to be aware of that and take care of yourselves. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Trosclair, and I wore pink as well because of October. And one other note of information, we received acknowledgement today from the company that is going to be putting in the new system that they're still on track to put it in before December 31st of this year. So if that system would have been in place, us looking back at this PowerPoint behind us, the PowerPoint will be in front of us after we get our new system, so we won't have to look away. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn, Mr. Steve Trosclair, second Mr. John Amity. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.